We had him this Monday, but now we have him back again. Tommy Duff of The Kickoff. Tommy.
Hey, Ethan. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, of course, as always, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come out and talk to us. Before we begin, as always, where can we get the kickoff?
They can give us a call at 423-267-0953, or they can log on to thekickoffstore.com.
As I said, we had our discussion on Monday. We have our kickoff on the Monday, Volume 69, Issue number 9. And we have some things to discuss. We have a lot of quarterbacks to be talking about today.
Yeah, there's quite a few that are banged up or not unhealthy.
Let's start off with Tennessee. A 2-time concussion. Now, normally a lot of times when you do that, you want to put them on the sideline. However, apparently Tennessee wants this gentleman to wear a double helmet and to get him on the field. What can you tell me about this?
Well, there's not enough. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. He's officially listed as doubtful. He hasn't practiced this week, and we saw J.T. Shrout getting more first-team reps and could possibly get the start, until Pruitt's comfortable with Garantano again. I don't see any way around the concussion. You don't want to mess around with that. And anything like that, but they want to, they want to make sure that he's ready before they put him back out on the field. And any player like that is going to be looking for any way that he can, find a way to get back on the field. But, it doesn't seem like a very smart idea to me.
When you're suffering this is a second concussion this season, a second one.
In consecutive weeks, yes.
Consecutive weeks, that's even worse. That's worse. That is when you put them on the sideline. As much as a good player as they are, that's something you don't want to risk their health.
Right. That's how I feel about it as well. So my guess is we're going to see one of the two other quarterbacks again. And who knows with Garantano what's going on. Pruitt was, defending him this week, but the problem is that it's become so toxic that I don't see any way that how they couldn't go with the third quarterback on the team, J.T. Shrout, which is going to be very risky because Tennessee needs this win. If they want to play in a bowl game, they need to win, and you want to put the best player out there to give you the best chance to win. And we haven't seen a whole lot of. The most we've seen of Shrout is, preseason and a couple passes during, the dead time. So I think it's going to be very iffy, and I expect we'll see Garantano again at some point during the game. Now,
Tennessee sort out his issues, but now we have another quarterback to talk about. Quarterback of Alabama.
Yeah, Tua is out for as far as I know, for a couple of weeks at the last, week two. They played well enough against, I thought, without him against Tennessee, they played well enough to win.
This will be the first time Saban doesn't have his quarterback for this season.
No. But, you've got an easy, well, at least as easy of a matchup in the SEC as you could want with, Arkansas is arguably, at least with us, he's the lowest ranked SEC team out there. So Mac Jones, he's got the tools. I mean, this isn't a kid that, what they say always about Alabama is you got 4 stars backing up your 5 stars off the recruit. So this is a kid without some, that's got some talent, obviously got some talent. how good can they be with? But and then you also got to remember they've got the best wide receiver, the best wide receivers in the country. So you're going to be, you're still going to be throwing it to the same wide receivers. So I don't, it's with at least a week out. I think they'll play it as safe as they can against Arkansas, which they can afford to do because, as I mentioned, Arkansas is having a very bad year. I don't see a way in which Alabama loses because of this at this point.
Right.
There's so much more talent. They got too much talent. And to be honest with you, Arkansas, they haven't announced their starting quarterback, at least through yesterday. They hadn't announced the starting quarterback for this week as well. So, their quarterback has a sore, and they'll play with Nick Starkel, who could be, who started against Alabama last year when he was at Texas A&M. He's a transfer. So, or was it 2 years ago he started against Alabama? So it's not a quarterback that they're completely unfamiliar with.
No. So that you pretty much answers the second question I was going to ask. Well, Uncle Dave wanted to know, even though that with the quarterback situation that you feel like he believes this may feel like a different team altogether, but for what you just said, that may not even be the case.
Right. There's so many pieces with Alabama. There's the wide receivers, the running back. Quarterbacks. They've won national championships, and we're in the playoffs the next year with another quarterback. Arkansas's got to go with Nick Starkel. They'll be familiar with him, and it's all about defense for them. Arkansas, to beat Alabama, Arkansas's got to be able to put up points. They haven't put up points on a consistent basis this year. Against any type of, they put up 55 against Colorado State, but this is a team that lost to San Jose State. That's one of the worst teams in the, or historically one of the worst teams in the Mountain West Conference. They played pretty well against Kentucky and Texas A&M, but last week they got completely blown out by Auburn. So, and Auburn did. Bo Nix has been inconsistent this year, and he's just a freshman. So, I think you're going to see Alabama 30 points, maybe.
30 points easy. So, Tennessee, take notes. I know you understand you want to win a bowl game. However, you don't risk the jeopardy. You don't risk your quarterback for it when you had back-to-back concussions. Yeah,
well, I think exactly. But I think when it comes to the Tennessee situation and risking, I think it comes down to whether or not how the fans are going to react when you put Garantano out there right now, because he's been criticized and booed and everything else, and he's a tough kid. But are you ready to, try to? Because if things went bad for Garantano, then it could get really ugly.
Oh yeah.
But if he's a better chance to win than Stroud, put the quarterback and here's a knock on the third quarterback in the conversation with Stroud is that he's an interception machine from all reports. He still throws a lot of interceptions. So,
all right,
are you willing to risk that? And he's not as mobile as Maurer, who's was one of the big things about him is he's been able to make plays with his legs, and he keeps his defense honest, how they're able to transition from Garantano, who hasn't been as mobile as anyone thought coming out of high school, to Mars. Mars gives him that advantage with the legs that he didn't. That Garantano wasn't giving them. So that's where the difference is. And if you take away that difference, is it worth it playing a kid who's going to turn the ball over just as much, not more, if he doesn't make plays with his legs as well?
Right. But now I want to ask this, and you alluded to this, so if you send them out there and he suffers potentially another concussion or another injury, that's going to lose a lot of respect. The fans are going to get upset, and above all else, they're going to lose a lot of face for that.
Yeah.
Is it really worth the risk?
Because kids aren't going to go play where you're getting put in dangerous situations. So, I don't see them playing Maurer this weekend. But that's just me.
Okay.
I don't have copies of his medical records on what they said. It could be, but from all intents and purposes, 2 concussions in 2 back-to-back games, that's not something you want to mess around with, obviously.
Right. Now, we touched upon it on Monday. However, we're going to take our little last deep dive for our games of the week. We're supposed to have an undefeated team. We're supposed to have some undefeated teams played this week. That did not happen.
Right, with the Wisconsin's complete meltdown.
1 point, if I read it correctly, 1 point.
Right, one point. But this is a team they were expected to win by 30 points. So the fact that he was even 1 point is shocking. It was shocking that it was close that they actually lost. That completely, threw a wrench into everybody's expectations of the season.
Oh yeah. Like I said,
but in Illinois' defense, they have been playing much better. As they're starting to improve. It takes when your program is in such a mess as it was when Lovie Smith took over. But in the last couple of weeks, you saw them play Nebraska down to 4 points. You saw them play Michigan within 15, and then there was an upward trajectory for Illinois in that sense. So that's not completely. But the fact that they were able to do it against Wisconsin, which I would say in the past has been a tougher team to. Because what's coming with Wisconsin. With Ohio State, people have been able to sneak up on them in the past occasionally. But Wisconsin's a very tough team to where they lose games like that. They lose against teams that they're supposed to have a good matchup with when they've lost in the last couple of years. It's been a long time since I can remember them. And I may be wrong, but I think it's been a long time since they've lost to a team like in Illinois who are at the bottom of the barrel of the Pac-10. I mean, the Big 10.
With that being said, I have to ask. I mean, Wisconsin's loss? I would arguably consider that arguably the biggest upset of this season so far.
I would tend to agree with you. We've had quite a few. We've had some upsets this year. There's been quite a few upsets this year, but that one undoubtedly that takes the cake. We've got. Vanderbilt UNLV was bad, but Vanderbilt's historically bad. Tennessee Georgia State was bad, a bad upset, and that might have been the worst. But this one's at least Wisconsin lost to a team in the Big Ten. They didn't lose to historically the worst team in the Sun Belt, or the worst team in the Mountain West, or the MAC. Or Army, or Liberty, or UMass. Teams that don't even have a conference are so bad. No, Army's good, but Liberty or UMass, or New Mexico State. If you lost to one of them, it would be historically you should shut your program down.
Right.
For the time Michigan lost to Appy State, but that was when Appy State was still a 1AA team.
Right. So that would lead to my next question regarding Wisconsin. Do you think they'll have enough time to rally, or is this the start of the falling of the dominoes?
No. It's hard to stick when you stick your neck out. You always have that. There's always that opportunity for you to look bad by them showing you wrong. But as of right now, no, there's no way against Ohio. The way Ohio State's been playing, I don't see how Wisconsin will rebound from that type of loss. I mean, this is an Ohio State that put up 52 points, 52-3 over Northwestern, 34-10 over Michigan State, 48-7 against Nebraska, and 42-0 against the Cincinnati team. I mean, granted, that's not the toughest schedule in the world, but the Cincinnati team is pretty solid for a very solid for a team out of the American Athletic Conference. You know, this is not they played cupcakes to an extent, but Ohio State nobody's got. They're leading the nation in your margin of victory. It's going to be. If I will be extremely surprised if Wisconsin shows up and gives them either. You know, I think they could make it close, but I think it's going to be very difficult. If Wisconsin wins, I'll be shocked. But that's just because, you know, I don't know their mindset, and I don't know how you rebound from losing to a team like Illinois.
I really wouldn't begin to tell you, so I believe their loss is set in stone. Let's talk real quick about the other two, Auburn at LSU and Notre Dame at Michigan. What are you looking forward to?
You know, LSU's Auburn, I've said it, you know, LSU's on a streak of playing the biggest games of the year on a weekly basis, you know, especially now that we have the Wisconsin loss. This is a huge matchup, and then after, but the thing is, they got an off week after this week, which is good because then they go to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama, and you know, especially if Tua's back and healthy, you know, they're coming off the Florida game. You know, last week they played well enough to, you know, win comfortably against Mississippi State. You know, they kind of pulled away in the second half, even though it wasn't as impressive as some of their other wins, the lowest point total of the year. LSU, I'd say by at least 7 to 10. You know, if it was my pick, Auburn's played tough. Auburn looked very good last week against what was an outmatched Arkansas team. But you know, you look at their common matchups. Auburn lost to Florida 24 to 13. LSU knocked Florida off 42 to 28. Auburn, I think that's their only common matchup at this point. Yeah. So we don't know, but you know, you look at that the Florida game. You saw how LSU pretty much pulled away in the second half. What was a good game, but I expect to see something similar where LSU will pull away in the second half. So I mean, Auburn's tough, and they've got one of the toughest defenses in the country. So we'll see about that. But LSU's been pretty unstoppable on offense this year.
And Notre Dame and Michigan. Notre Dame is our 13th on the list, but I do not see Michigan on this 2025.
No, I think Michigan probably dropped off after losing again last week. I think it'll be a tougher game than I think it'll be a closer game than our ratings predict. You know, it's hard to say. It's always hard to say how good Notre Dame is because you don't have. You know, they lost to Georgia, and they beat Southern Cal by 3 last week. But I mean, Southern Cal's good, but they're not a great team this year, and they've had some injury issues. Michigan lost a close game. You know, a game that it looked like it was going to get out of hand last week against Penn State, but Penn State's the top 10 team. You know, so it's as much as we thought Michigan was going to be a top 10 team going into the year, they're not at this point. But if they're still playing. They're playing well enough to where they knocked off Iowa. They played Penn State pretty close. You know, I think Michigan could turn it around. This would be the week they start turning things around. You would hope for Jim Harbaugh's sake because we're already hearing reports about him being open to getting out of Ann Arbor and heading back to the NFL. But which, you know, that would be almost the last. If you would think that a coach like Harbaugh, this isn't as far as he could take a Michigan team. But the fans are getting impatient up there. So, but he needs a win. Michigan really needs a win. I think Michigan will. Notre Dame's just a hard team to pick against. You know, the independent status. It makes it. They're not playing the same set of teams every year. When the ones they do play, you know, are usually high caliber programs, but they're not blowing them out. So, Michigan, I think, wins a close one.
All right. Tommy, as always, we thank you so much. One last time before we step off, where can they get the kickoff?
They can give us a call at 423-267-0953, or they can log on to thekickoffstore.com.
Tommy, again, thank you so much, and we'll send you this audio as soon as I step off the air.
All right. I appreciate it, Ethan.
All right. See you soon, buddy.
All right, thanks.